I met Barry back in 2010 when I was spending some time in Los Angeles. We had lunch. He was then CEO of Smosh. This was before they sold to Alloy Online. We discussed some of the challenges and opportunities in web video and YouTube in particular, and how brands like WatchMojo and Smosh could branch out off the platform. Smosh was one of the few YouTube brands that successfully managed to get some of its audience off YouTube, something we managed to do to a lesser extent with our suggestion tool. Barry and Smosh ultimately were acquired by Alloy Media, who then merged with Break Media to form Defy Media. Now, Barry left in 2017 before Defy's ultimate demise, which is something we discuss in our interview as well. So we're here at VidCon in Anaheim, the city that basically, I guess, Disney built. So you spent about a decade from 94 to 2006 at Disney.
Yeah.
That's a fascinating time, both, NASDAQ growing, .com bubble blowing up. What's the mood and thinking as you're at Disney and you start to see this thing, the internet, come around?
I'm not sure that it was recognized for what it would ultimately become. I think that most major media companies really viewed the internet as an extension of what they were doing. I think most companies treated it as a marketing spend and a marketing add-on or a shoulder content for television or film. It wasn't really understood sort of pre-21st century what the potential of it was to become a standalone entertainment, news, sports platform.
Okay, interesting. So I put WatchMojo in the third wave of content producers, with the first one being Pop.com, Pseudo, before Y2K. The second one is Heavy and Mania, that were kind of coming after the bubble burst. And they had to build infrastructure, content, editorial sales. It was just, that's why they wasted so much VC. And then Revision 3, Next Networks, and WatchMojo were in that third wave, contemporary to YouTube, but naively thinking we could build our own and operated websites. What happened where you in 2000, at what point did you say, I want to switch over and get in the other lane? And like when you first came across Smosh, I would love to know like what's going on in your head, in your industry, to be like, because that's a big leap, right? I mean, it's not a big risk to leave and jump to Smosh in 2012. But at that moment, just fascinated with how you thought.
I for sure never said I want to switch over and do this. It was January of 2006. I had just left Disney. I was looking at a very nascent YouTube platform where there were literally a handful of videos. I think the platform was 2 or 3 months old at that point. And I saw this video of these two guys lip syncing the lyrics to the Pokemon theme song. And it had 1 million views on it, which was a big number at the time. And there was just something about the way that Anthony and Ian were connecting with an audience. And I loved the name Smosh. I think they had uploaded 2 or 3 videos at this point to YouTube. And so I reached out and said, I think that I flew up to Sacramento where they lived and didn't really know what I was doing or what I was saying or what it could become. But I told them that I thought we could build a really big comedy brand around what they were doing, and that if we did this right, they would never have to get regular jobs, which was super appealing to 2 young 18-year-old guys, and so that's where we started.
Were they sold on it, or did you have both? Were they interested in kind of turning this into a business? And you had an impressive track record, but it's not obvious to share their baby to some extent.
I think that I think that, are you asking if they were sold on the idea of building a business or building a business with me?
Both, yeah.
I don't know. I can tell you that I brought to the table a completely different way of thinking than they were approaching it. They were approaching it in a very In the early days of YouTube, people just put up a video, and if somebody watched it, that was great. And maybe they'd put up a video in a month, and maybe somebody would watch it. And what, I came into the picture with was, first and foremost, in the content itself, you had to be really respectful of your audience. They were your partner to a large degree. And so you had to treat them with a modicum of respect. And, some of that meant, number one, create some regularly scheduled programming. Like, it would be great if you could do a video, sketch comedy video on Friday, every Friday. Two, you got to continue to strive to get better, because at the point that we started, there was no script writing process, there was no production process, there was no infrastructure per se. Whether it went beyond the two of them or not, it just wasn't done in a traditional way. And so, I helped them to apply some traditional thinking to what it was that they were already doing without extinguishing, the spark that I think the two of them still bring to the platform today.
How much of it do you think is timing, just having been early on YouTube versus, they're obviously talented guys, I'm not doubting that, but I mean, being early on a platform like YouTube before the rocket ship takes off?
I think there's no doubt that being early on the platform was particularly advantageous to all of us. I also think that those guys would have succeeded no matter what time they walked into the platform, because, they really, in working with creators my whole life, there are just certain people that are going to do this thing, whether it's on YouTube or on television or in an art studio. They were going to, make stuff and connect with an audience.
So why did YouTube beat out the competition?
It's interesting. There are a lot of answers to that question, I think. From our perspective, early on, we built our business never trying to be 100% reliant on a single partner. And to that end, we always had a website, which became a very big website for a good deal of time. And we had a video player on that website, and we did not use the YouTube player. The way that the world worked at the time was that you could put a video on YouTube and then drive people to another platform to watch a different video. So we would always do bonus content, and that bonus content would be exclusively on the website. And it monetized at a 10x CPM to the YouTube CPM. But somewhere in the ether was this idea that was created, which is a completely valid way of looking at things, but the currency of views, the currency of subscribers, the currency of likes. And in some weird way, in this nascent world of digital video, that idea supplanted revenue. That idea supplanted, broadening your business. And so I think you had people, including, us much later, that just went all in on YouTube and said, let's put the YouTube player on the website. Let's put the bonus content that we used to have on the website on YouTube, because YouTube had, intentionally or otherwise constructed this world where every piece of content and therefore every person that was creating content valued themselves around this view economy and not necessarily a dollar economy.
Absolutely, because you're not necessarily even going to brag about your revenue, whereas you can show off your viewership. And I think that, when YouTube at some point went from being the pariah to the belle of the ball, I think everybody went all in. We used to license our videos to the portals, to Hulu, and then at some point, we even just killed our syndicated player and just went all in. So that was definitely, I think, the prevailing thought there. So what has been like the biggest change on the platform between then and now that you kind of take away with?
I think today it is, it's not a novelty. I think 10 years ago, people, especially anybody over the age of 15, viewed YouTube as this novel thing that was out there to watch, funny videos that were slight. And, today it is not slight in the least. It is a very powerful medium for connecting with your audience, because what all entertainment is really about is how a creator forms a connection with the spectator, And we used to get into debates, especially with people that were deeply rooted in the traditional space, about what was quality content. And, is it production value? Is it the skill of the actor or the director? Or is it the ability to move a member of your audience? And, to me, having a bit of a background in art history and criticism and whatnot, it was more about the connection. It was less about, is that pretty or is it well done? And it was more about, hey, are you connecting with people? Are you changing people's lives? Maybe overstating it, but you really are doing that. You are, at Smosh, we created this, intimate family of production and talent and audience that, was something that was very hard to do in the traditional space.
I mean, the reason why I think YouTube is revolutionary is because it changed what the definition of quality was. The way you shoot, you look into a camera and you talk, this was a very different way of doing it, and it's kind of become the norm now. Okay, so right now, if you're Disney, right now, you've kind of moved on from worrying about YouTube. I mean, setting aside the Maker deal, which in hindsight you could, question and whatnot. It's obviously set its sights on Netflix and just how the world, the gatekeeper world is changing. In a year or two, are these big media companies, once they've addressed or think that they've addressed the Netflix threat, are they going to get back and care as much about YouTube and Facebook as they did a few years ago? Or do you think that traditional media companies have kind of, they view the internet as it's there, but they're going to kind of go back to what was really their core business?
So, first of all, I think Bob Iger is on record as saying he's not going after Netflix. That's not the goal at the Walt Disney Company. I think that traditional media companies in general make content and then try to control as much of the distribution and monetization of that content as possible. Because of their size, they tend to wait until the market settles. And so, we've had 10 years of digital video, where digital video has been out there, and I think now the technology, as proven by YouTube and Facebook and Apple and everybody else that puts video out there, Netflix, that you can have the same quality experience, you can have the same long watch time experience that you could have on a television or in a movie theater. And so now I think that you are seeing all of the large media companies getting into the space, carving out whatever it is their niche is in distribution, and then looking to have a pipeline of content to fill that distribution channel. And Disney is in a particularly advantageous position. They own very big movies, they own very big television shows, they own very big brands, they have a lot of production capability on the film side and now on the television side with the acquisition of Fox. And so I think that it was just about being patient and stepping into the waters when the waters were, deep enough to accommodate players of their size.
So Warner also was acquired by AT&T. Verizon took a very different approach when it came to their media business, and you could argue now they're kind of shifted their sights back on mobile. In your opinion, do you think that AT&T and Warner will turn out differently? Or do you think that ultimately these telcos, sure, they'd love to be in the content business, but they're going to go back to what they know best, which is the pipes and the...
I don't know enough to really answer the question.
But knowing how the media world works.
Well, I know how the media world worked over a decade ago when Warner and AOL were partners, and I think that the same question was asked, well, is Warner going to become AOL? And really Warner's stayed Warner, because there's just something that is particularly powerful about those media companies and the brands that they own and control, and the IP that they create around those brands. And you know, that engages a consumer in a different way than any distribution company or mobile company. You know, I would say that the, you know, two exceptions to that are, you know, maybe YouTube and Apple, where people are personally, you know, personally enamored with the brands. But, you know, for the most part, movies and television and theater and content produces an emotional response in a consumer that doesn't really get produced by a telephone company.
What do you think Facebook has done well in their video efforts, and what do you think they've failed at?
I don't know enough to comment, other than, you know, my personal use case. I don't watch a lot of video on Facebook. I'm not sure that I've ever watched a Facebook Watch show. I'm not sure that everybody in the world knows where to find those shows. So, you know, I think they're still just scratching the surface.
Do you follow Snap, Insta, TikTok, any of the other platforms?
I do. You know, I had a great experience of producing a Discover channel for Snap in the last year at a company that I was consulting for, and you know, they have a lot of power. You know, there's something to the audience that they can generate. There's something to the you know, when I first got into this, and Facebook and Twitter were the new kids on the block, and we had Smosh that was on YouTube and on a website. You know, we initially viewed Facebook and Twitter the way that a big media company was viewing the internet, which is, this is just an extension to drive people to what our core business was. But very quickly we learned that Facebook had a certain cadence, that Twitter had a certain cadence, and you couldn't just say, go watch this video. You had to treat them as entertainment platforms in and of themselves, number one, and number two, you had to immerse yourself in what the language was on those platforms. And, you know, to me, Snap and TikTok, and, you know, my personal experiences with Snap, they are very specific in the way that their content creators talk to their audience. And it is, you know, the magic of that, and I think that TikTok is the same way, is that it's almost inaccessible to adults. And so kids love that aspect of it. They love the fact that, you know, Snap is a bit of a black box to somebody who's over the age of 18. They love the perceived anonymity of the platform. They love the inaccessibility for adults. And so, you know, I really enjoyed being in an environment where, you know, you had to understand what the way to talk with people was on the platform, and then creating that content, and then, you know, ultimately similar to what we did with Smosh or Clever or Screen Junkies on YouTube, having that resonate with an audience. And you know, that's the beauty of the digital space, is getting that immediate feedback on whether that feedback is coming from knowing that a lot of people watched it, or seeing in comments, or getting, you know, immediate responses from them about what they think of what you're doing.
What are your thoughts on YouTube Kids?
You know, having come out of the, you know, traditional kid space, and having come out of the traditional kid space at, you know, one of the companies, if not the company, that really treats it with the respect that is necessary for kids. As a parent, you know, I know how I want to raise my own child. It's a difficult proposition to be in a place where you are, you know, entrusting third parties to produce content for, young people and allowing that in a mostly unfettered way to go out to that audience. And so I think that they have a ways to go in terms of how they're going to address that issue.
So Smosh got acquired by Alloy, which then merged with Break to create Defy. And Defy had an opportunity really to build, one of like the great portfolio companies. Everybody wants to be the next Viacom. And then it obviously didn't fulfill that destiny, right? So what are some of like I knew them pretty well as well because they had long looked at partnering with WatchMojo. So I have my own vantage point. But what do you think were the main, and I know you left Defy in 2017 before so I do want to put that out there. But what are some of the takeaways? What are the lessons when we study management, the internet, web video, YouTube? There seems to be a lot of lessons in that tale.
There are a lot of lessons for sure. But for me, it's like you can't necessarily apply a formula for success when it comes to creating content. Maybe you can apply that to creating soda, or maybe you can apply that to creating a widget, but you can't apply it to creating content. And so, when people who are not first and foremost content creators, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for some of the people that I worked with at Defy, but they didn't come out of the content space. And when people like that get access to a tremendous amount of data, and that data seems to indicate that this format, this subject matter, this length of time, this frequency are exactly the right ways to go, and then you start pinching the content to go in that direction, it becomes troublesome. I've always viewed data, going back to television ratings, as a tool, right? You're being given a piece of information that is no more or less important than a creator's vision, than somebody's experience connecting with an audience, than how many people watch, at what time of day they're watching. And so I think that you want to take all those things and put them together. And so I think that one of the things that I started to see happen that was detrimental to content creation was being a little bit heavy-handed in terms of how we applied the wealth of knowledge that we had about what worked and what didn't work. Number two, it just didn't and hasn't in a lot of ways caught up fast enough in terms of the revenues that were associated with some of the content that we created. And so, we were by no means making television quality productions in terms of the cost of things, but for a Smosh or a Clever or a Screen Junkies to go out and do millions of views on a 10-minute long video and to do $5,000 in revenue or $10,000 in revenue, that's not the television business. The television business is millions of dollars in revenue for a similarly viewed television show or or movie or whatever. So that didn't catch up fast enough, and we didn't quite have that right. And so obviously I could say we spent too much money and not enough money came in, which is fundamentally what ultimately happens to all companies that fail. So that was certainly going on, and then I think that and Defy addressed this. At some point, there was just a lack of focus from a management perspective. We owned too many brands and didn't allow those brands to operate independently. And so we'd acquired, Clever, and we had Screen Junkies, and we had Omni, and we had Smosh, and we had Smosh Games, we had Shut Up Cartoons, and a literal Warp Zone and a dozen of Girl.com, Teen.com, like there were all of these brands, and I think that to be able to really focus on a handful of them would have been advantageous, or to allow them to operate more independently.
Final question. So, is there something now that gets you as excited and you think, wow, there's a lot of potential there, the way in 2006 you came across Smosh and YouTube?
I'm super excited about making content. I love to make content. I love to work with young talent and sort of help them to realize their vision. So that gets me really excited, and I'm agnostic in terms of where that content goes. I like the television and film business because it's a broader playing field in terms of who you can attract and how you can spend money to make things happen. But a lot of the great talent is coming out of the digital space or working in the digital space, and it's just amazing to me. I think the biggest thing and the biggest change in the last 10 years is that it is that, and maybe this is a very overused term, but that democratization of content creation. And so, when I grew up, people said, as we've seen, that anybody can become president of the United States. Today, anybody can become a filmmaker. Anybody can become a TV producer. Anybody can become a celebrity. And that's really exciting. It's also, really dangerous in some ways.
Because you could elect them
but
into
it's
the
really
White House.
exciting, yes.
Thank you, Barry, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Likewise.